Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Economic Matters. Today is Thursday, March 26th. For our afternoon bill hearings, we have a very short docket this afternoon. But before we get started, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege and honor and introduce, for those who may not know, our former Vice Chair of Economic Matters, Delegate Sally Jamison, for joining us today. With that said, we'll start with Senator McKay with Senate Bill 477.
Chair, I have a panel. Can they come up, please, Matthew? Well, thank you, committee. Appreciate your attention on such a beautiful day as you look out the window. We'll try to be as clear and concise as possible. Senate Bill 477 brings in clarity and fairness and accountability to Maryland's real estate appraisal system. First, the bill establishes a clear statute of limitations from civil actions related to real estate appraisals. Claims must be filed within 2 years of discovery and no later than 4 years after appraisal was completed. This provides a certain certainty for appraisers and marketplace, preventing infinite liability. I must say that the bill, as it came into the Senate, is not in the exact same posture. The JPR committee worked on this, taking in some considerations presented by Senator Nick Charles and the Black senators. So, Senate Bill 477 takes on a strong stand against discrimination and extends the statute of limitations for discriminatory housing practices related to appraisals from 2 to 12 years, ensuring victims have meaningful opportunities to seek justice. Thirdly, the bill strengthens transparency by requiring appraisers to retain their records for 12 years, up from 5 years. This ensures critical documentation is available when disputes arise, especially in complex and delayed cases. Importantly, this bill includes 3 key safeguards. It does not apply to cases involving fraud or concealment, and it does not impact ongoing or past claims, only future claims after October 1st, 2026. It does preserve oversight by state regulators. There is no significant fiscal impact on state or local government. In short, Senate Bill 477 balances fairness for professionals with stronger protections for consumers, especially in cases involving potential housing discrimination. Now, my panel is going to explain to you some of the reasons and an amendment why they think it should go back in its original posture. And with that, Madam Chair, I urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 477.
Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Matthew Wood. I'm a state certified residential appraiser, and I have an SRA designation with the Appraisal Institute, and I live and work in Hancock, Maryland. I'm here today on behalf of the Maryland chapter of the Appraisal Institute to respectfully oppose SB 477 as amended and to urge you to adopt targeted adjustments to address provisions that are simply not workable in practice. As introduced, this was a good bill. It created a clear and reasonable statute of limitations on claims against real estate appraisers 2 years from discovery or 4 years from the date of service, which gave appraisers needed certainty and aligned with how risk is typically managed in our profession. But the Senate amendments fundamentally changed the bill. It now includes a 12-year statute of limitations for fair housing claims against appraisers. More importantly, the bill now contains a 12-year record-keeping requirement that applies to all appraisers, not just those tied to a complaint. That's where the real problem is. Under Maryland law and professional standards, we retain work files for 5 years. This would require us to keep every file for 12 years, including commercial and agriculture assignments where fair housing laws don't even apply. For small independent appraisers like me, that's a significant burden operationally, financially, and from a liability standpoint. And importantly, it's not tied to actual claims. It's a blanket requirement from across the profession. Let me be clear. We support fair housing laws and strong enforcement. We do not have an issue with exempting fair housing claims from this bill's statute of limitations and allowing those claims to proceed under Maryland's existing fair housing law. But we cannot support creating a new 12-year statute of limitations, especially when it's paired with a universal 12-year record-keeping requirement. That combination creates an unworkable compliance structure. So our ask is straightforward. We ask that you please remove the 12-year statute of limitations for fair housing claims and rely on existing Maryland law, and remove the 12-year universal record-keeping requirement. With those changes, this bill can achieve its original goal without creating intended harm. Absent those changes, we must respectfully oppose this bill. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Glover. I hail from Frederick County. I'm a Maryland certified appraiser. I've been a chairman of the Maryland State Appraisal Board in the past. I ditto his comments, so I want to add some new things. The current law, as it is, states that we have to keep our records for 5 years. We also, if there is any court-type action taken against an appraiser and an appraisal, they must keep those records 2 years past the settlement of that claim or that lawsuit. So I know of a case in Washington, D.C., where I was on their appraisal board that is ongoing for 20 years, and the appraiser still has to keep his records. So having to make everybody keep their records for 12 years is onerous. It would take a storage unit, 8 by 8 by 8, full of appraisals just to keep that kind of records. And somebody says, oh, keep them electronically. It's not that simple for appraisers. They keep changing our programs. We keep having to upgrade our programs. And you know what? Those programs don't read the old programs. And as chairman, we had people come in and say, oh, I can't pull it up on my computer, so you can't charge me with anything. Yes, we can, because the law says you have to be able to produce a written copy of that to the commission. So even if they keep it electronically, but they can't get to it, that means they have to get a forensic IT guy, which is vastly expensive. And we're just small people. We're small companies for the most part in appraising. And that just puts an onerous responsibility on us as appraisers. And we're having trouble now getting young people to come into the profession, getting a diversity into the profession. We're working on it like crazy.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony.
I'm sorry, my time's up, but
Yes.
this certainly doesn't help. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll start with Delegate Adams and then Delegate Pippy.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And Delegate Pippy and I are probably going to have questions on the bill that relate to, well, my question is going to be related to what happened, because there's no House cross-file, right? To the bill?
Correct. There is no House clerk.
All right, so you have a bill hearing, and your bill, I assume, sails through committee without amendment, and they amend it on the Senate floor, or did they get amended?
No, it got amended in committee.
Oh, in committee.
It got amended in committee. There was lots of concern about
The 12-year.
the 12. Well, it is actually a little bit more than that.
Okay.
This is a priority, as I understand. I don't speak for the Black Caucus, but this is an actual priority of the Black Caucus when it comes about racial bias in appraising. And so Senator Nick Charles brought up those issues, and this is the way as amended in committee, which passed out in, well, one person did not agree, addresses the issue of discrimination in appraising. It's a compromise is what it was. There was a suggestion that we would upload all of the records into the circuit court, just as we do deeds, and that we believed was going to be financially over a hurdle that we could get over. And so this is a product of working together to make a bill better to address the concerns that some had in the committee, sir.
I mean, this retention period and how you handle the records are more rigorous than what the IRS requires.
Well,
I mean, there's sort of an element of this, like, what are we fixing? I mean, your bill's trying to do something.
What we are fixing is an element that some in Maryland do firmly believe is a problem. And that, and I won't use the word, I won't be able to use the word correct, but appraising where people are actually changing pictures in their houses, and because they feel that because it is owned by an African-American, that the house is being devalued, and therefore black wealth is being stymied because it is owned by somebody who's an African-American. I've never lived that, so it's very hard for me to articulate that. As I bring this bill to you, it is the product of the JPR, that we addressed that issue and felt that we were making some form of compromise. It is true, going from 5 to 12 is an extension in those years. But if it was going to be passed, that the records would actually be uploaded into digital in the record system, this is actually a whole lot less burdensome than that would be.
Okay, my last question on this is, are you supporting the bill as you're introducing it, or, because I'm hearing testimony that says,
And that's
it's almost like you're supporting the bill with amendment, meaning put it back the way it was before it got amended.
For full clarity, I support the work of the committee. But to be fair to the bill as it came in, because it is different than from what it came in, it was important for you all to hear where it came from. And I am supportive of what the committee has done because we work together.
Right,
Yes,
last question then. Was the industry neutral on the original bill, and now they're trying to get?
No, the industry did not want, I mean, the industry did want the bill as presented.
Okay, so.
The industry as presented today with the amendment, they are not in favor of that. They would like to go to 5 years.
Okay, so I mean, what I'm hearing, because people have called me on this particular bill of bills, is that the 12 years unworkable. It's not equal with other different places where there's record holding and statute limitations, and so it almost stands there uniquely in that.
We landed on 12 years because there are certain things in contracts that around a 12-year period.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'll just say this is the second bill hearing we've had where a bill has passed out of the Senate. Someone has come to the committee and asked us to fix what passed out of the Senate.
So, like I said, I support the committee's work on this.
Okay, so.
But I do believe it is fair to the industry to be able to, for you to understand where the genesis of this bill came from, sir.
So where's the, just you said a compromise, was there a larger year amount that you came down from?
Well, what the compromise,
said 5.
What the compromise was going to be, sir, is that they wanted every single appraisal to be uploaded in the circuit of courts, just like we do deeds and land records being recorded.
Okay. And then I think Delegate Adams said it. So to the gentleman to your left who represent the industry, one I'm assuming is a constituent of mine, you guys don't support this bill as it sits, correct?
Not with the current amendments, no.
Okay, so.
It would be burdensome for us to have to keep them for 12 years. Just the amount of, everybody would have to rent a storage room to keep all the, right now, just keeping them 5 years, my attic's full.
Okay. And then the last question I have, and you may not like this question, Senator, but did you have an opportunity to withdraw the bill?
No, sir, I didn't.
They don't give you that courtesy in JPR?
No, sir. You can get a withdrawal, but that's before we do any kind of work group or any kind of collaboration.
Okay.
We don't get a mulligan where, you know, as soon as it is presented, it is the possession of the committee.
Okay. Thank you for this question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you, Senator. How are you?
Wonderful.
So I'm really trying to understand the process issue here and exactly what's the difference, because you mentioned this bill was amended in committee,
Correct, ma'am.
and it voted out committee with one person against it, but that one person, you serve on that committee, and you're not that one person.
I am not that one person.
Right, so-
And I do believe, well, yes. And there was a vote change. The one person had voted on the floor to pass it, and then he did do a vote change to be consistent with his vote in committee, ma'am.
Right, so I guess what's confusing to me, because came out of the committee amended, which you voted for.
Absolutely. I support the committee's work on this bill. Yes, ma'am.
But now you're asking us to take that away.
I am not asking you to take that back.
Okay,
They are.
okay, they are.
They are.
Okay, all right. That's what I
I'm
want to
trying
make
to be
sure.
as respectful to all parties.
Understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, Senator McKay, and no other witnesses, that concludes the bill hearing on Senate Bill 477. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We'll now move on to Senate Bill 365. Senator Waldstreicher.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. This is my first time in this new configuration, so congratulations to you. If I may indulge in a moment of nostalgia, when you and I came in together, we sat on Judiciary right beneath us, right over there is where I sat, and then here on ECM, I was next to Delegate Fennell. Of course, the Vice Chair was just here, the former Vice Chair. I don't know, I'm tearing up. I miss you guys. Senate Bill 365 will be much shorter than the previous bill and is very easy. Senate Bill 365 is a correction to legislation we previously passed that allows security guards to recertify electronically. So when we allowed the recertification of security guards to go from paper to electronic certification, we didn't change some of the other stuff around how that recertification happens. And all of that stuff from back the paper days remains in current law. This removes a lot of that extra language and modernizes the recertification of security guards to reflect that we have already decided to allow that recertification to happen electronically. We worked in close conjunction with the industry, who you'll hear from in a moment, and we worked in close conjunction with the state police, who are the recertifying authority. Everything in this bill regarding the recertification of security guards mimics the other certifications that the state police does. So this puts it in the same posture as every other industry that the state police uniquely certifies. Speaking of unique, just in terms of logistics, as you know, there was a somewhat special circumstance where a member of this committee withdrew a number of bills, so there is technically a cross-file of this bill that this committee did not hear. In our committee, our tradition is if one member withdraws a bill, we don't pass the other bill. To the extent that that is also your tradition, I would ask, just for special circumstances, given the unique situation, all of that member's bills were withdrawn, but the Senate decided to move forward with this bill, and it's the first time you're hearing that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hello, Madam Chair. John Pica on behalf of the National Association of Security Companies. I agree with everything that Senator Waldstreicher said. We worked with the state police on this bill, and it really modernizes the process for recertification of a security guard certificate or license. And with that, Madam Chair, I ask for a favorable report.
Thank you. We'll start with Delegate Pippy.
All right, good to see you. I do like the one part where it says you're repealing a late fee. Who was the cross-file originally?
So I believe Delegate Crosby originally was cross-filing the bill.
Okay, Crosby. Okay, and then just looking at the fiscal note, so what is the $100,000 expenditure, where does that come from?
So that comes from the state police, who has indicated, obviously, as you know, the savings are not indicated here. So the state police has indicated, so that the cost is to make sure that everything is aligned for the electronic recertification. The dates at which recertification happens change under this bill. So there is a slight decrease in the original revenue, which they then make up at a later point. That is not reflected in the fiscal note, as is our tradition. But the state police has indicated to us, and will indicate to you if you ask, that over the long term, they believe this is beneficial and cost neutral.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I address? Delegate, the prior law, when it was done by paper, or law today, when it's done by paper, you had to apply for recertification 90 days before the expiration date. And late fees started piling up to $150. And there's no need for that anymore, because now you can apply for renewal up to the day it expires. And Madam Chair, I think there's a virtual witness. Is there not a virtual witness listed? Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know my good friend from the Eastern Shore and I had a bill similar last year which dealt with security guards. So I'm just trying to figure out what does this unravel or undo, or how does this improve upon the process?
Yeah, I believe that was for cannabis agents, cannabis security guards.
Well, it was for hospital security guards, it was for casino security
Yeah.
guards, it was a number
The hospitals amended onto the bill. So did the health care services. No, this doesn't change anything. It makes it easier for them. They no longer have to apply 90 days for renewal, nor do they have to pay any late fees. But if they have a security guard license, they can now apply without a late fee up until the day it's due.
So I know that one was to reduce or get rid of some redundancies. So is that still the case with this piece of legislation?
Well, I don't want to get into what happened with that bill last year, but your bill as originally introduced did take care of redundancy. When it got to the Senate Finance Committee, they added amendments that included other security guards. So without getting into that whole issue, there's no redundancy involved.
Okay.
With this bill.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really like this bill. I believe the whole purpose of the reminder notice, Senator, and simplified renewal process is to help our security guards stay compliant and avoid unnecessary lapses in certification. Did I understand the bill correctly?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I think you just answered my question. So the only thing the bill does basically requires the secretary to send out a reminder. It eliminates the late fee. So if someone is late in filing, if their certificate lapses, what happens? They just aren't allowed to.
There is a penalty of a type of penalty. If you, so the bill requires the Maryland State Police to send out notification of renewal 90, 60, and 30 days prior to expiration. And security guards, as a result of legislation passed in 2023, all security guards are required to be trained. The initial training is 12 hours, and 3 years later, there's recurring training of 8 hours. The penalty for this is you have to retake the 12 hours of training. It doesn't continue if your certificate lapses.
So if you miss your deadline, it's 12 hours, not 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Valderrama, members of the committee, my name is Steve Amate, and I'm the Executive Director and General Counsel of the National Association of Security Companies. John Pica is our lobbyist in Annapolis. NASCO is the trade association for the contract security industry, and we employ, NASCO members employ thousands of licensed security guards in Maryland. For decades, NASCO has worked with state legislators and regulators to implement laws and regulations to provide for the efficient and effective licensing and regulation of private security guards. We're greatly appreciative of Senator Waldstreicher for introducing SB 365, which unanimously passed the Senate last week. It's a common sense bill that will bring efficiency and clarity to security guard certification renewal process, and we urge the committee and the House to pass SB 365. As stated, SB 365 will align the timing of security guard certification renewals to match that of all other certifications and permits issued by the Maryland State Police, which is the last day of the certification holders' birth months. This benefits both certification holders and MSP. Second, to help prevent security guards from having their certification expire and thus force them to stop working and require them to reapply for a certification and retake the initial 12-hour certification training, as just mentioned. The bill requires the state police to send renewal notices to certification holders 90, 60, and 30 days before. Third, the bill eliminates unnecessary and confusing language in current law that states a guard seeking to renew the certification shall submit their application for renewal at least 90 days before his or her certification expires, along with the renewal fee, and most confusingly, with the amount of any late fee. With online licensing, there's no need to submit renewals 3 months in advance, and more so, it's illogical that someone who submits an application 90 days before the certification expires, or even a day before, could be subject to late fees. The above statutory language has created confusion among security agencies and MSP, and thank you for considering this bill.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Amate. Seeing no questions and no further witnesses, that concludes the bill hearing on Senate Bill 365. Thank you, Senator
Madam Chair.
Waldstreicher. We'll now move on to Senate
Thank
Bill
you, Madam Chair.
869.
Thank you.
Senator Washington.
Madam Chair, can I bring up, is this sponsor only? Oh, can I bring up folks that are on my panel? Oh, there you go. Perfect. Not bad. Make sure. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. First, let me just say, as your friend and former suite mate, it is an honor to be here in front of you as the chair of this amazing committee. We've come a long way, and so I'm very proud of you, and congratulations.
Bonus points, bonus points.
There you go. Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Senator Alonzo Washington here to present on Senate Bill 869. This bill would create the Maryland Workforce Launch, which will be a new pilot for business attraction within the Department of Commerce. As a pilot, the program will partner with 1 or 2 community colleges to provide free training for employees of companies that relocate here in the state of Maryland. Department of Commerce will partner with the community colleges to provide the training in specific growing industries like aerospace. The department will also ensure that companies will be qualified businesses, entities that provide new jobs to the state and provide good salaries. The department must also ensure that the funds are repaid to the state if the company does not meet those goals. Additionally, this program will help the state to grow its private sector and lessen our reliance, on the federal presence and federal employment. By lowering the cost of entry to the strategic industries, Maryland can remain a top-tier destination for high-paying jobs that our families need. Aligning this support with salary and hiring metrics ensures taxpayer dollars result in tangible economic benefit while Maryland stays competitive. The gap is that Maryland needs a strong front-end incentive that provides curriculum and instruction at no cost during the relocation of negotiation phase. Madam Chair, I did pass over a really important point. As we've seen the federal government downgrade in employment and fire folks, it's so important here in the state and specifically in Prince George's County that we rebound from that by attracting new businesses to our counties and to our state. And so I think this is a bill that particularly should have focus on those areas that were hardest hit by the federal layoffs and that had a high reliance on federal contracts, which we know have been diminished in some way. The evidence here is that the senior economist Timothy Bartlett from the W.E. Upjohn Institute for Employment Research stated that in 2025 report that the business tax incentives are less effective at job creation than customized services for businesses. That includes this training that we have here. With the structure in place to hold these incoming businesses accountable, Maryland will look forward to launch of this strategic program. This builds on Maryland's competitive advantages, which are our system of higher education, workforce training, and skilled workforce. I'll let you know that the funding that's allocated for this has already been in the budget. It is there, so the fiscal note has been paid for. And so for those reasons, Madam Chair, I respectfully ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Valderrama, Vice Chair, members of Economic Matters. My name is Brad Phillips, and I'm here in strong support of Senate Bill 869, Workforce Launch Pilot Program. One of the things when we look at Maryland is we have really strong incentives for keeping businesses in Maryland, growing businesses in Maryland. We have programs like Advanced Employment Right Now, or the EARN model out of labor. We have TEDCO that's investing in corporations and companies to grow their industries as well in the Maryland. But one of the issues that we don't have, that I see when I go talk to my counterparts in other states, is a strong offensive sort of strategy for how do we attract businesses to the state of Maryland. I feel like that is a strategic missing piece that Maryland could close with passing this legislation. And when I talk to states like Georgia, South Carolina, and Virginia, I hear from my counterparts that providing training opportunities for employers to bring their businesses to their state is one of the most effective strategies, more than anything else, in luring businesses. Georgia has a Quick Start program that's very similar to this. They've trained over 1 million workers and brought in Kia, Hyundai, SK Battery, Hanwha, and Rivian. Virginia, right across the line, has a program, the Virginia Talent Accelerator. They have reported filling over 8,210 jobs and recently secured bringing Lego Group's $1 billion investment to the state of Virginia with 1,700 job training facilities in their community college system. We think this would be a strong asset to the state of Maryland, particularly as we diversify our economic opportunities in the state, and we urge a favorable report. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was going to start off by asking, because I looked straight at the fiscal note, which, love you, but then I was like, we have a cap of about 100,000 when we look at these legislation that comes before us, but you ended it nicely by saying that it was already budgeted for. So that's great.
I sat beside you for many years, Madam Chair.
I will ask, so it says that the Department of Commerce must partner. So have you been working with them in collaboration for this bill?
Yes, I believe they're in support of the bill,
Okay.
and they are looking forward to it. And so, yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Great. We'll go to Delegate Pippy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you asked the one, and I think you answered the one about the fiscal note. Do you have a specific community college in mind for this? The only reason I asked is I was looking at the fiscal note, and they were just saying they got some information from Baltimore City Community College, but I didn't. The bill doesn't specify a specific, so I just didn't know, maybe you could elaborate on that, or?
Sure, yeah, I don't, obviously, we don't control who the fiscal note writers call for these types of opinions on bills. We have the Community College Association here who supports it. I mean, I think it's up for grabs across the state. Part of my reasoning for mentioning the federal government downsizing in its investments in Maryland is because we should focus on those areas that have been hardest hit. And so that does include the Capital Beltway region, including Prince George's County. But there's no, in the bill, we didn't want to specify that, so we're leaving it up to the Department of Commerce to decide where it's best seated.
Okay, cool.
And it's a pilot program, so it can expand after a few years after we see how it's been implemented, and then we'll be able to expand it to other areas too. And as he said, it's a program that's working in Virginia where they created billion worth of investment, and they attracted them just by providing this type of training from their community colleges that was free of charge to the business, and they moved to Virginia. And we just got to be more competitive.
The other thing I was going to say is we had a reception or something with Volvo. And one thing that they were bringing up as one of the few remaining large companies in Maryland was that they are trying to do a partner program with Hagerstown Community College. It's not necessarily in the DC capital region, but I just didn't know if that was something that you guys have considered. And it may not be as a direct result of federal changes, so to speak, but I know they're looking to stay in Maryland, and so. But.
Thanks. The impetus for here is to get businesses to move from a different state, not necessarily retention.
Sure.
We already do a lot of retention here in the state. This one is, hey, we see Virginia and these other places going out to get out of their states to lure businesses in. We hear it all the time that business. We don't hear it all. I don't hear it a lot, but I hear it often that businesses are going from Maryland are going to other states. We should be at that competitive advantage of saying, okay, we offer this as an incentive, in addition to other incentives that we have to move these large companies or smaller companies here to the state of Maryland.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you're not specifying the type of training. It's wide open, whatever the community college or the respective business.
Or Commerce departments decide that what's the best. I mean, I think it's about using this as a tool for a business that we know we can get from Texas or Georgia to move here, and use that as a incentive for them to say, we have these extra dollars to help train your team if they move here, and we'll train them for free of charge. Whatever you need, you provide us with the curriculum, we can create the curriculum together, and then we will train them for free. And if you move here in Maryland, and if you stay here in Maryland, and you provide high-paying jobs to Maryland.
So is that stipulated in the bill that it has to be a company that's located outside of Maryland currently?
It is about relocating folks into Maryland, so it is focused on outside of Maryland, outside of the state.
So it would not be available, as Delegate Pippi mentioned, Volvo, it would not be available to them if they choose to retain a workforce here?
I think there's other programs and opportunities within the state that already exist to help Volvo continue their presence here. This is primarily to give Commerce a tool to attract businesses to the state of Maryland.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love the concept of this bill. Just wondering, so let's say hypothetically, there is a high-value prospect that Maryland is trying to attract, okay, in active. So to kind of address my colleague Delegate Weibo's question, it does say a qualified business entity is one that does not have a physical location in the state and is in active negotiation with the department, right? So it sounds like it's strictly for attraction purposes. Correct. You know. So let's say in that scenario, we would tell the business as part of the negotiation conditions that if you come to Maryland, we will offer you free training for the potential workforce you would need that we may not have.
Correct.
And we will work with you to customize the training package.
Exactly.
Correct? Okay.
Exactly.
Do you, first of all, you know, I think it's great that we're doing this, but I wonder, do we have equivalent of that program for retention?
So that's a good question, and we worked on the legislation. We wanted to make certain that we weren't providing other opportunities to businesses that were moving into Maryland, that Maryland did not provide for Maryland businesses themselves. And so I think the idea is that if, you know, for EARN, for example, is a good program in Maryland that helps train much in the same way Marylanders, employees into jobs. It has metrics as well. What's different about this bill is if they do not end up hiring these individuals that were trained, they actually have to pay that back to the state. So it does not offer any better incentives for out-of-state businesses to relocate to Maryland than it already provides to Marylanders trying to grow their business here.
Yeah, my only concern is actually opposite of some of my colleagues' concern, because I think we should have an entirely different threshold for fiscal consideration for economic development related bills, because when I look at it, it's only $500,000. I don't know how far we can go with $500,000 for this kind of highly skilled training, you know. So, but anyway, it's a pilot, so let's hope it works. Thank you.
Thanks.
Seeing no further questions and no further witnesses, thank you, Senator Washington. That concludes the bill hearing on Senate Bill 869. We'll now move on to our last bill of the day, Senate Bill 582. Is Senator Jennings here?
I'm speaking on his.
Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Economic Matters Committee. My name is Rachel Ullman, and I'm the Legislative Director for Senator J.B. Jennings. He is very busy with Conference Committee on the budget, and that's why I am here presenting on his behalf Senate Bill 582, Consumer Protection Unsolicited Loans. This bill passed the Senate unanimously. SB 582 prevents the mailing of live checks or negotiable instruments that automatically create a purchase or loan obligation when deposited. This practice, primarily from investors, targets homeowners, particularly elderly and low-income individuals, from predatory home buying schemes or high-risk credit products. This bill does three things. It prohibits sending unsolicited live checks through the mail that can trigger legal or financial obligations. It preserves the ability for investors or lenders to send letters or solicitations that do not include those negotiable instruments, and establishes enforcement mechanisms, including fines and criminal penalties. Unlike standard advertisements or loan offers, these checks automatically create a binding contract or loan upon deposit. In the context of home purchases, depositing the check constitutes acceptance of an offer that can require the homeowner to vacate their property. For credit offers, the check triggers high-interest debt and without informed consent. We do not believe this is mere marketing. I want to show you, I have a copy of one of these live checks that a constituent provided to us. She lives in Parkville. She received a check in the amount of $234,368.25 to buy her home. She was very understandably confused, upset, and frustrated, and brought this to us for this legislation. She claims that she's been receiving these checks weekly during the high prime real estate season, and she's concerned someone's going to snatch one of these from her mailbox and commit identity theft and possibly buy her home without her knowledge. Predatory investors often target vulnerable seniors, low-income households, and those with limited financial literacy, causing confusion. Current consumer protection laws prohibit deceptive practices, but no law prevents the mailing of negotiable instruments that automatically create these debts. Senate Bill 582 closes this loophole, providing a clear, enforceable rule. And I just want to thank the Office of the Attorney General for their support of the bill. I want to thank Jennifer from Economic Action and her support. And we've worked closely with the Maryland Bankers Association on an amendment, particularly around exempting convenience checks. And also I want to thank Mariner Finance for an additional amendment that we are presenting today, which Lisa is going to explain to all of you. Because they are regulated differently, there was an additional tweak to the language that we need to the bill. So I respectfully urge that the committee give Senate Bill 582 a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Lisa Harris-Jones, and I'm here on behalf of Maryland Finance. For those that are not familiar with Maryland Finance, they are headquartered in a national company right in Baltimore County. They employ over 569 Marylanders, and they are regulated by Maryland law, licensed under Maryland law, and they have a product that they of live checks that is a product that is a very important part of their business and consumers rely upon. When the bill was introduced, as was shared, the focus of the bill was to prevent Marylanders from getting a live check in the mail where they would sign the check and then their property, whether it's a home or a car or whatever, would be secured, automatically secured by the debt of the check. Mariner's checks, their live checks, are unsecured. They follow the rules of Maryland law because Maryland law does regulate and have laws in place for live checks that are sent by mail, as well as the federal government. I'm making this very brief because I gave you a 3-page written testimony that goes through all of the different agencies in Maryland, as well as those agencies on the federal level that regulate live checks. Mariners checks are unsecured. They were not meant to be captured under this bill. When the Maryland bankers offered their amendment, there was a misunderstanding that that would capture Mariner Finance's business, which is regulated a little differently and was not appropriately captured. The amendment that's been offered is attached to the written, would ensure that Mariner, just like the Maryland bankers, aren't affected by this bill that they were not targeted and to be a part of. And we ask for favorable amendment.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Bevan Dangle. I'm the Deputy Director of Economic Action Maryland Fund. We're here in strong support of this legislation. It's a really important consumer protection bill. We serve senior clients. I have a senior mother myself, who do receive these offers in the mail and are very confused by them. And even I've had things come into my house that made me do a double check. If it's a normal sort of, it's Christmas time and your bank sends you, hey, here's a check to access your existing account, that's what the amendments moved out of the bill, and that's a reasonable amendment. We do support the amendments. But when you get these unsecured loan offers or these offers to purchase your home, and you don't understand what you're getting in the mail, and you sort of sign on the dotted line, this is a very fraudulent practice in our opinion. And the other piece that was briefly touched on that causes us great concern is that risk of identity theft. We have seen, and there's a citation in our testimony, an increase nationwide in these devices sort of being pulled out of mailboxes, identity theft, or other people signing them. And so we are, by allowing this to occur, putting people in incredible jeopardy of having someone come in and sell their house for them and take the cash and run. So these are a very dangerous tool. They're not used by legitimate banks in Maryland. We're very grateful that the banks were able to support the bill as amended, and we strongly urge a favorable report by this committee. Thank you.
Thank you for the bill. I know check fraud in our area is rampant, and I've received a few of these in the mail too, thinking the same thing. Somebody gets a hold of the check, and next thing I know, my house is sold. Ms. Jones, you said you had written testimony, but I don't see it. Yours just says oral testimony for you. Is that?
Okay. Yeah, it was sent in. It was late, but we were told that it was sent. It was sent to all of the members, and we also emailed it directly too.
Okay, it's not in our system, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make sure you have it.
Okay, thanks.
It's almost, the session's almost over. I guess it might be time to wind down. Thank you, Chair. So, good bill, first off. Are you saying that these checks, because our company owns real estate and we get these checks on occasion, the number, the value they put on the real estate is almost predatory in some respects. But let me just get beyond the general personal anger when I see these things.
Right.
Are these real? Are you suggesting that these are real checks that?
Yeah, I'll read right here to you. It says, I'm a local home buyer in the Baltimore County area. This check reflects a legitimate cash offer for your property at, which I won't read, but yes.
So let me just stop you right there. What does one have to do with that check to make that binding? Are you entering into a contract when you either mail the check back or what?
Yes, and ultimately then high interest is tacked onto it, but none of that is stated on this letter, which is fascinating.
Well, I think it's a good bill. I'm not necessarily familiar with convenience checks in the sense that you're trying to carve out certain stakeholders that I'm not familiar with, but I'm very familiar with these real estate things, and I'm happy to see a bill on this.
Yeah, that's the reason for it.
All right.
Do you want to say? I don't think he has a question about it.
Delegate Roberts, you have a question? Did you have a question?
Well, yeah. I've received checks in the mail, but not for like $250,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I just didn't think they were real, and I just throw them in the trash, and I'm just thinking they're just trying to sell me some credit or a loan. So I can sign one of those checks and then I can get some money?
So, I mean, if I may, so when we first saw this bill, there are laws in place that disallow this type of, I don't know.
Investor
Yeah, I mean,
predatory behavior.
there's already laws on the books in Maryland as well as federal to disallow what is going on with the check over here. And they're very stern laws. For example, like my client, their checks on the average are $3,000. They have to go through a process of pre-screening the individuals that they send it out to make sure that they are credit worthy. There's a certain amount of time that the check can live. There's a certain amount of time after they sign the check where the person who may sign the check can also say, never mind. There's a whole regime within state and federal law that oversee unsecured checks. That's what my client does. These checks, 9 chances out of 10, my guess is they're coming in from outside of Maryland. I don't know. But that's what the bill was in. I guess it's the suspenders. What do you say? I always mess up saying the belts and suspenders of the current laws that are out there to go after these bad actors.
Sure, and I don't know who this Josh Hines is who sent this check, and there's a couple copies from different investors, but his address is Lutherville, Maryland. So I just want to turn your attention to the Attorney General's opinion. I really appreciated that, talking about how predatory these practices are. And the first draft of the bill came from a bill in 1998. And when I talked to the Office of Financial Regulation, they explained that many times these things were happening on a much more regular basis back in the 90s, right? That bill didn't go anywhere. And as we continue to research the issue and continue to amend the bill, realizing that anyone can apply for a loan online in minutes now, right? And so these types of situations shouldn't be happening, especially for Patty in Parkville, who told us about this situation that she's been facing. So I appreciate you considering the bill.
You know what, I think I'm going to treat the rest of the offline.
Seeing no further questions and no further witnesses, that concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 583. Let me just make it, well, not you guys. Before you guys walk away, 6 p.m.